What the bloody hell is going on with the biggest shooting and hunting organisation down under? My name is Kate Fantanell, or Lady Liberty Australia. I am broadcasting you to you from my little studio in San Antonio, Texas, where I now live. But I spent 5 years of my life working for the Sporting Shooters Association of Australia in the national office. And we've just heard the news this week that SSAA National has suspended SSAA Queensland from the National Association. So I've had a lot of people contacting me saying, what's going on? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What does that mean for the people of Queensland and others in other states and territories? So I'm going to go through the news today and give you my opinion from my experience, my time, and my knowledge of the SSAA. Now, if you're tuning in from the United States of America, the SSAA is like the NRA here. In fact, when I worked for SSAA as the media spokesperson and lobbyist, I started the SSAA Legislative Action Department based on the NRA's Institute of Legislative Action to further our political and lobbying activities. It has since been wound all the way back now. I do not even know if they had replaced the former me, who of course was Rachel Oxborough or Rachel Andrews. She was brilliant. Really great team back in the day when I worked there, circa 2014 to 2018, before I ran off to Canberra to work for Senator David Leyonhjelm, the only Libertarian senator that we've ever had. But the news this week, it's all over Facebook. There's all sorts of theories floating around. So I'm going to go through the letters, the announcement, the statements today and give you my perspective. Now, please note, I have NDAs. I have people threatening me all the time. So I can't share everything, unfortunately. This is one of the positions that I regret putting myself in, is working with other people who think that they can silence me by threatening me. It has taken quite a toll on my health and mental health. I haven't done a video since Halloween. You might have saw my cheeky Halloween outfit where I chucked on a Western Australia Police Force shirt that I had to have a cold shower afterwards because I felt so disgusting having to wear that logo. But I chucked the Firearms Act and the regulations around my neck, which has been hanging around my neck since I left, because to me the scariest thing in the world is a waypole officer and these laws. So that's the last time I've done everything. But you're not here to hear my trials and tribulations. You're here to hear what the bloody hell is going on with the SSAA. So let's bring up the email that was sent on Tuesday, November 18th, my time. So this email was sent out to all members or those who have been members. I'm not a member anymore because I don't have to be a member of SSAA to buy a gun or keep a gun over here in the great state of Texas. This is one of the reasons that I have such a problem with the shooting organisations back home. They have a monopoly on firearms ownership, because in a lot of states, and SSAA Queensland back in 1996, when we had the gun law changes pushed down from the federal governments onto the states and territories, SSAA Queensland, very smart, went to the state government and said, why don't you make it mandatory for people to join clubs like ours in order to keep our guns, or the ones that weren't banned at least. So they have created a monopoly and they have become very rich because of that. Now, that's not a criticism, that's part of playing the game in Australia. So of course you see a conflict of interest here already. If groups like SSAA benefit from laws that make it mandatory for we the people to join their clubs and associations to keep our guns, then it is very interesting when they go in to have conversations with the government and see who they're really representing. And I don't think it has been we the people for a long time across the board. So this email was sent out November 18 my time, and it said, please find attached a message from the National President Andrew Judd. Now, he is from Tassie. He was the president of Tassie when I was at SSAA, so I have had a bit to do with him. I know him. I worked more closely with Don Riddell. I'm not sure if he's still there. He's very intelligent, loved his temperament, loved working with him on issues for Tassie. I was invited to present at a hearing, a legislative committee hearing like we just saw in WA with the Tassie guys. But I ran off to work for Senator David Lyon-Helm, the only Libertarian senator we've had before that inquiry, so I didn't go and help him out. But if Don Riddell was there, he would have done a great job. So Juddy said, here's my message, and that shooters in Queensland can now join an organisation that is part of SSAA National by joining this other club, SSAA Queensland Hunting and Shooting group. Become a member before 31st of December and receive a free $50 merchandise voucher for SSAA store. Now, just wanted to also show you this so you can see how long ago I worked there. This is myself looking a bit like Dana Lash, if I can even give myself that compliment with my fringe. I might cut a fringe again, not sure. With the former national president, Jeff Jones. He is from sunny Queensland too. This is when we launched SSAA TV back in the day, and I worked with him, and the CEO at the time was Tim Bannister. There is Tim on the left of my screen, with Tony Bernardo from the Canadian Sporting Shooters Association. He came over for a wildlife conference we had up in Brisbane from memory. So this is the leadership that I worked under. And of course, since then, we've had a change in CEOs. Tim has gone across to work for SSAA Queensland as the executive director. Jeff Jones is happily retired in Ipswich. I got to visit him when I was up on my way to Townsville last year. One of my happier moments from my time in Queensland. So we have a new CEO now by the name of Tom Kenyon in the SSAA National Office. You might have seen him take over the role as SSAA TV presenter, I suppose you could call it, where he's interviewed cops. And he was actually a member and a minister for the Labor government in South Australia for quite some time. He then ran for the Family First Party at the 2022 election, didn't get up. So now he is the CEO of SSAA National, and you've got Juddy or Andrew Judd from Tassie as the president, and of course Paul Fitzgerald from SSAA Western Australia as the senior vice president. So this is not the leadership that I worked under when I worked for SSAA back in the glory days. Just wanted to make that clear. So then we saw, this is on the SSAA National website with some more details, including that letter from Juddy. So scrolling down, so if you join the new SSAA club, you receive your genuine reason, as I mentioned before. Australian Shooter Magazine, $20 million public liability insurance, participation rights and national titles, and all other benefits of SSAA membership. I think you guys need to put some commas in there. So let's have a look at the letter. I'll read through it and give you my thoughts as we go. So, g'day everyone. I write to you regarding the ongoing issue between SSAA National and SSAA Queensland. Now, it has been going on for a while. There has been a few issues. As many people are aware, there have been problems between both, and there are also plenty of theories, ideas, and rumours about it. So I think it's time to clear the air. Interesting that it's been described as problems. It sounds kind of like a marriage. We've got marriage problems. So I guess this is why the divorce has come about. Firstly, I want to express to everyone that all individual members are important. It's members that make our association, and they run our equally important clubs. I, for one, still believe that no one is more important than the individual member, and hope that we can never lose sight of this. Now, it is important to note that you are not a member of SSAA National. I had that mantra repeated to me so often in national office. That does not mean we didn't want to hear from you. I loved hearing from members and having giving them an ear on the phone just to hear what's going on across the states and territories. But the role of the National Association, for me politically, was to lobby federal politicians in Canberra. This is how I met Senator David Leyonhjelm. And the states and territories, you are a member of your state and or territory SSAA, because that's where you shoot, that's where the clubs are, and that is also where the laws are predominantly written, because the states and territories still hold the residual powers to write the gun laws. The federal government handles import and export laws. They can tinker with the bloody NFA, National Firearms Agreement, if they like, and bribe states into changing things with money. But you, the individual person who is so important apparently to SSAA National, you are not a member of National. You are a member of your state or territory. Just wanted to make that very clear. So then Juddy goes on to say, unfortunately, through the actions of the SSAA Queensland Executive, SSAA Queensland has been suspended from the National Association. As a result, the members of SSAA Queensland are no longer individual affiliates as per the constitution of the national body. This is probably the most upsetting thing, as it forces us to exclude SSAA Queensland members from SSAA events. So events, they're talking about competitions. As some of you are aware, I have many friends from the shooting world who are Queenslanders, and the idea of shooting events without them is deeply upsetting. SSAA Queensland was suspended on October 1, 2025, but individual members will still be able to compete in national events until 31st of December 2025, as some members had paid subs in advance till then. Now, my issue with this is, if you have paid your SSAA membership and it doesn't expire until May next year, why are they not honouring that and letting you continue to participate in competitions until your membership expires? You've only given them until the 31st of December. So people have paid a membership and you're taking away that privilege and putting a different date on it. It should be when the membership expires, in my opinion. I don't know. This is just my thoughts, and they have the ability to do that, I would think. As SSAA National hasn't access to the SSAA Queensland member list, we have honoured members' competition rights until then. SSAA National has tried to keep us all together and have offered an extremely reduced affiliation fee to SSAA Queensland, who have refused to pay anything towards the National Association. Because of SSAA Queensland non-payment of fees, SSAA National has had no choice but to address the status of SSAA Queensland. Now, he said that National has tried to keep the marriage together and offered a reduced affiliation fee who refused to pay. Maybe they weren't getting anything for their money. And like I said, SSAA Queensland, probably the richest association, definitely one of the biggest between New South Wales and Vic, the East Coast. Maybe they weren't getting anything for their money from National. And keep in mind, so from memory, I do not know if this has changed, but back in the day when I worked there, 50% of your membership fee went to National and 50% went to your state or territory, SSAA. That is the last that I heard. That might have changed. They might have tinkered with the Constitution. I don't know. It might be a worse deal now for the states and territories. I don't know. But this means that SSAA Queensland, even New South and Victoria, who are the bigger and the bigger associations, have essentially been subsidising the smaller state and territory SSAAs. I'm talking about South Oz, WA, NT and Tassie. Now, if I was SSAA Queensland and I was seeing my members' money being distributed to, I don't know, let's use WA as an example, and I was looking at WA and thinking, well, the leadership of SSAA have led us to Dante's gates, and we have lost our liberties to a bigger extent than we could have dreamed of from 1996. Look how far we have declined since then. So if I was a member sitting in Queensland, I would think, why the bloody hell are we subsidising these bloody states who are involved in overseeing the worst gun laws in Australia, gun limits, the list goes on. I hope you've watched my videos about the diabolical affairs happening in my home state of Western Australia. 50k to the Nationals at the WA election, which didn't get us anything. So maybe SSAA Queensland, who used their fiscal responsibility and thought, we're not getting what we paid for out of this. We don't want to subsidise the clown shows going on in other states. We've got it pretty good up here. We've been professional and organised since 96. We've got good people involved running the helm. Maybe National, you're not selling anything that they want to be a part of. I don't know. This is obvious. Again, this is my opinion. Juddy goes on to say, we are very aware that the situation isn't the fault of the members of SSAA Queensland, and I urge them to contact their state office to discuss it. There is now a pathway for the individual members to be able to remain part of the greater SSAA family by joining SSAA Queensland Hunting and Shooting, which is a new club that has just been created for this very reason. And then he's gone on, if you join us, this is what you will get. As a bonus for the next 12 months, all members of the new club will receive the $50 voucher. In the future, we want all states to follow the Constitution and be involved in the management of SSAA. This can only be achieved by working together, and while we have the current situation, it is impossible. Unfortunately, the fact that SSAA Queensland has started to duplicate the national services, it is going to make it very hard to reverse this, which makes you wonder why they would spend the Queensland members' money to pay for services they were already receiving. Speaking for myself on behalf of SSAA QHS and the remaining SSAA states and territories, I'd like to say once again, we do not want to have the members or clubs of any full member body leave SSAA National. There are so many reasons why we should stay together for the kids, from saving money on services right through to having a united voice. We sincerely hope that SSAA Queensland will agree to keep everyone together and we can continue as a happy, unified group into the future, but we will never lose sight of the importance of you all as individuals. Now, just picking up on this united voice, stay together for the kids stuff, there is nothing stopping SSAA National and SSAA Queensland still having conversations, still being involved in what's happening politically, what's happening federally. Is there anything we should know about? There is nothing saying that you can't do that unless there's personality clashes and egos and things involved, of course. So it's just very interesting that you have Queensland, who have been so efficient as a machine, who have run their organisation like a business. And of course, they're offering their members their own services. That is the right of every state and territory, just like it is the right of every state and territory government in regards to firearm laws to do as they see fit in their respective jurisdictions. So it's not a criticism to say, SSAA Queensland are replicating that. They're actually giving them more for their money. But no, because National are the only ones who can do magazines, National are the only ones who can manage a database, apparently, Queensland have gone rogue. Now let's have a look at what SSAA Queensland response was. So this came out on November 19. I'll just have a sip of water, sorry. My blood of tyrant. So this is my company I work for here in the United States. So this is what SSAA Queensland had to say in response. We are aware that SSAA National has emailed many members across our state and nationally claiming to have established a rival Queensland shooting organisation. The email contains many false statements and its aim appears to be an attempt to hijack membership funds from Queenslanders. We will seek legal advice and respond to SSAA National to make it clear that we will not sit idly by when outside parties attempt to defame and interfere with the functions of our independent organisation. I wish I had the money to take legal action against the people who have defamed me and interfered with my fight in WA, and I have been advised I do have grounds for defamation suits, but I do not have the resources. I can only defend myself with what I have, which is my voice, which I barely have still. Very stressful times. This is how they treat you back home when you fight for gun rights. SSAA Queensland is the largest financially sound and self-reliant shooting and hunting organisation in Australia, with more than 75 branches statewide. We are not under the control of SSAA National, and they have no right to misadvise our 80,000 members. So there you see it. They, as I alluded to before, they are the biggest and they are the most efficiently run. Put simply, SSAA National has misused its finances, reduced membership benefits, and not provided the level of service that we expect for our members. Now, please keep in mind that this is written by people who used to work for SSAA National. So they would know what it was like when they were there, when we were there, the glory days, compared to what it's like now in 2025. They would know. We have ceased paying them for services that we now provide our own members, as they were simply not up to the task. Instead of restructuring their budget to match their reduced income and reduced responsibilities, they appear to be panicking and now attempting to hijack Queensland Shooters membership fees without offering range or state benefits. Their actions display a disregard for Queensland and will go down in history as malicious and self-destructive. These are really big claims, and please, 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 I am reading this. This is what they have put out. I read what you put out. So this is their words. For us and our members, nothing has changed, nor will it. SSAA Queensland remains your genuine reason to have a firearms licence. We will continue to provide the ranges to shoot at and the disciplines to compete in. We also now offer Australia's largest circulation shooting and hunting outdoors print magazine, The Report, at no extra cost to most of our members. That's huge if that's outpaced the Australian Shooter magazine, which of course I used to work for and which SSAA National produced. So they've produced this new magazine called The Report, which is now bigger than Australian Shooter. Wow. We lobby for your sport and recreation at the state and federal level and provide $20 million in public liability. So also, this is something the states and territories SSAA should do, is talk to their Queensland federal members so they can find out what's going on at a federal level if anything's coming down to affect the members from federal politics. This is also a responsibility of your state SSAA branches to lobby politicians at both levels and not just members of one party. Please, that's not how you lobby and advocate. I tried. I said, let me come work for you. I could show you how it's done. They didn't want a bar of me. And this is what you end up with in WA. When people with delusions of grandeur take over and think they're going to save WA by electing the Nationals, who have to form coalition with the Liberals, but they didn't even talk to them. I did. I talked to Nick Goran and Phil Twiz. You're welcome. We have established the Australian Shooters Alliance and the Australian Institute of Legislative Action, which provides us with the ability to reach federal legislators and work with our like-minded association organisations like the USA's NRA. While being a state-based organisation, we now have a national and international reach and influence. Bloody hell. So they are thinking, they're not saying, oh, National can do the federal lobbying on behalf of us, which I do not know if they are doing. I have not seen that. I was in Canberra in the middle of bloody winter. I remember freezing, being out at one of our friends of shooting days when we took them out to the Marnica range in Canberra with politicians, federal politicians. Lionhelm showed up. Andrew Hastie was there. This was 7 years ago now. So that was the people who were elected at the time federally. I haven't seen SSAA National do that since Tim left, since I left, since Rachel Oxborough left. I do not know what that. I just turn on the computer and I see the CEO interviewing a South Australian cop for SSAA TV, starting his own podcast. This is just me reading the room. And then finally, and when you pay your membership fees to be a member, it stays in your state rather than being funneled away to prop up another group. We're here to stay and we are here for you. So some people have been worried that this might be a bad thing. Oh no, we're not united anymore. Oh no, what's going to happen to my little SSAA WA when I'm bleeding members because of the gun laws that I didn't fight effectively for the people, and what does that mean? This is very, very bad for the funding to other states and territory SSAAs, the smaller states. But I'm all for decentralised government, which means the people in the state manage the money, manage the affairs of the state like they've done, not just state politicians. They've got federal politicians and even have their own relationship now with the NRA. SSAA Queensland have done this on their own because they have been run like a professional business since 96. Decentralised revolution, bring it on. I support what SSAA Queensland done because they are probably sick of funding a clown show. We are now in 2025. Australian Shooter magazine, yes, we're all nostalgic for it, but we are losing our guns every day, especially in my home state of WA. What has National done to help them? And keep in mind, that's not actually National's responsibility. That's the state and territory responsibility when it comes to state gun laws. National looks after federal gun laws, which, as I said, only really import and exports. And then when you have big things like the Adler lever action shotgun that Naya put out, that ad, do you remember that? I do, I was there. And they wanted to tinker with the NFA and recategorize lever action shotguns, thanks to Senator David Lionhelm, who stood up and said this is insane. He called it the folly of the Adler lever action. That's when National were doing things on that level. I have not seen that with the current leadership of SSAA. All I see is, like I said, he's started a podcast. So if I was a member in Queensland, I think this is a good decision. Fiscally responsible. You're not going to be funding the clown shows looking over at WA. You have people dedicated to your state with governments as local as possible. This is what we need. And again, this is my opinion. You can take this for what you will. Thank you for watching. My name is Lady Liberty Australia, Kate Fantanell. I will be doing some more videos. I'm still recovering from the time that I've had these last 3.5 weeks. It has been quite the challenging year, and part of it is because of the culture of the shooting and hunting community in WA, these organisations. I will have to say that. It is embarrassing to see the kind of language used about, we've had our problems. It sounds like a bloody divorce, like I said before, when it's really all about money. And Queensland is saying, well, we've got it covered. We're doing everything that they have alleged or insinuated that National is no longer doing. And they're going their own way. And I would say putting the members, their Queensland members, first and disassociating from some of the tomfoolery that has been going on in National. And it is, I can understand why people are anxious or angry or upset. What does this mean? Is this fracturing? How do we save Australia, the shooting and hunting community, if we're not all united? Like I said, National can still come Queensland, we've got this big issue, come into the circle, we need to deal with this. Well, they're not offering that. They're just saying no, because you're going against what we want you to do. That is not how you treat the biggest SSAA. So no wonder they've walked away, and I would too. And this is why I have also walked away from the toxicity of the current old guard in charge of SSAA in the other states. When I said I'm here to help you, like I said, 5 years working, the SSAA National was in Western Australia on the ground when all of the gun laws shenanigans kicked off in 2022. I ran for office. Let me pull this up. This was me, 2022 federal election, lead Senate candidate for David Leyonhjelm's old party, the Liberal Democrats. They do not exist in that iteration anymore. This is what I was doing when I was on the ground in WA, trolling this pathetic police minister, Paul Papalia. Asked SSAA WA for help. Please, can you help me? I work for National. Like, I'm one of you. Didn't even return my calls. Didn't give me 50K for my campaign. Bloody hell, that would have been fantastic. Imagine what I could have done. Fuck, I could nearly have got elected. So I've continued to stay true to the fight myself as an individual. And I do not blame SSAA Queensland for walking away, because there are some people that you cannot work with. For whatever reason it is, ego, delusions of grandeur, dumb ideas, those people who love to bang the table and get nothing done. Eventually, you have to go it alone. So hats off to SSAA Queensland. I've got my Australia hat on today because the Test cricket starts in Western Australia Friday, which is today, 3 a.m. at the moment. I wasn't going to mention this, but I think I should. I'm getting a bit emotional thinking about it, but I have been in the United States of America in Texas since the end of April. I came over here to work for Blood of Tyrants, this liquid energy tea drink. I've just had an absolute blast working with such a fun company and such a good boss. And I've continued to do my advocacy, my gun rights advocacy, 2-Way for Australia campaign. I've been campaigning since I started that campaign back in 2022 for my Senate election, just promoting the idea of liberties when it comes to not just firearms, but life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. This is why I'm so glad to be in the United States of America, because I align with the values, I align with the Constitution. I wish Australia had a Bill of Rights and our God-given rights acknowledged by our government. This is why every day we are seeing in Australia the slow incremental creep over our freedoms to the point that we do not have freedom of speech. We have never had the Second Amendment. We do not have the right to self-defense with lethal or non-lethal tools under any circumstances. And by the way, pepper spray is not going to save you either, boys and girls. It's not a panacea. It's not castle doctrine to put limits on what people can and can't use when they're being attacked. Do not think that this is a good thing. We need to go much further, and they're not going to give it to you anyway. But I've continued to advocate for firearms freedoms and to try and inspire more people from my generation and younger, men, women, whatever, to get involved, to learn the skill of shooting and hunting. It is so important. It is something I'm so blessed to have been taught by my father growing up in outback South Australia. Became a pistol shooter in my own right in South Oz in WA. Just absolutely love this sport and this skill that I have, and I've tried to educate especially Australians who have been brainwashed and propagandized into believing that all guns are bad and we have the best gun laws in the world. which is simply not the case when you look at the statistics. Ask Dr. John Lott Jr. I have. And I was so humbled this week. I was actually on the brink of deleting everything. I have really copped it from the work that I have done and continue to do in Western Australia against these gun laws, the slander, the lies, the defamation on the front page of the paper. I do not have the money, the resources, and no one has offered to help me. No one has offered pro bono to help me with any of this, despite saying I have a case to defend myself. I have just had to take it on the bloody chin. And it has really taken its toll on me personally, professionally, mentally, my marriage, being so far away from my family and my dad. But I was so humbled this week because I have been nominated for an award at SHOT Show in Vegas. It's called the Gundies. And I've been nominated as a micro-influencer of the year. Now, I am micro because in Australia, I'm very censored. My Facebook and Instagram has been shadow banned. I've breached community standards too many times. So I don't get any money from my work for that anymore. YouTube, I'm having massive issues with as well. But I've continued to do this work because I think it is so important. I think it is my purpose to educate Australians about the importance of the Second Amendment and Americans about the importance of defending their Second Amendment. America, to me, is the last beacon of hope for liberty in the world. That's why I'm so grateful to live here, and I will do everything I can, and I have done everything I can to get involved here. So blessed to go up to the Gun Owners of America conference in Nashville, Tennessee, Goals, where I got to meet Stephen Williford, the Sutherland Springs hero who lives just near me and who blessed me with his time to sit down and interview him about that terrible day on the 5th of November. I went to the Second Amendment Foundation event up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Went to their AmCon. They had a media training day for influencers like me, how we can use our profiles to get this message out there. This is what they are doing in America. They understand the importance of influencers like myself who do this in our own time. Like I said, I don't have to be doing this. I didn't have to be doing anything to try and help WA. But I did because that is the right thing to do. And it has just been almost inconceivable to me to see how it's been twisted and how I've been treated. And it's just the culture of the shooting organizations in Australia and some of the men and the old guard. It has really been horrifying. And so to this week see the news that I've been nominated as a micro-influencer of the year, I am just so humbled. I believe voting starts on the 1st of December, so I'll share this around. And look at me doing WA proud. I've got my Gad Swan dress on. I've got a gun that's banned in Australia. Sorry, lads. I got a little pistol in my leg. I'm trying to be a James Bond girl. So I'll try and make you proud, Australia. Thank you to everyone who has supported me on this journey. Like I said, I nearly deleted everything this week. I nearly just said, I can't do this anymore. But this is my purpose and I will continue pushing for you. And thank you to every single person who has supported me and continues to support me. I do this for you and for the people of Australia. Thanks for watching.